Hey, what's going on? Tyler here with Tight Lines and High Tides. And today we're bringing you another episode all about hooks. And in particular, today we're going to be talking about our favorite types of hooks that we like to use when we're surf fishing. And we're diving in right now. All right, so when we talk about different types of hooks for surf fishing, there's basically 4 different types of hooks that we like to use. First off is the circle hook, our favorite. Second is going to be the kale hook. Third is going to be your J hook, and number 4 is going to be your treble hook. Before we go further into the different type of hooks that I just mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about the different styles of fishing that we do out here and how that might relate to generally selecting a type or style of hook that you're going to use. And when you're out here on the beach, there's basically 2 types or styles of fishing that we do. Number 1 is your passive style fishing, and number 2 is your active style fishing. So active style fishing is basically your cast and retrieve type fishing. A lot of times artificial lures are using this active style fishing. And then sometimes, if you're throwing your rod and reel out there and you have bait on the hook and you're holding that rod and reel in your hand at all times and not putting it in a rod holder, I like to consider all of those active style fishing. The second one is the passive style fishing, and it's kind of my preferred way of fishing out here on the beach. And what that is basically whenever you cast your rod or cast your line and your bait out to a particular location and you remove the slack, you drop your rod in a rod holder and you let basically the rod and reel and the line do all the work when it comes to setting the hook. So that is your passive style fishing. So in our different categories of hooks that we just talked about, whenever you're doing the active style fishing, I usually relate that either to the J hook, definitely the treble hook, and then most of the time the kale hook. And then for everything else, when you're passive style fishing, you're actually going to be using, and I recommend pretty much 100% of the time, some sort of a circle hook. So now let's start talking about the circle hook. There's basically 3 different variations that you're going to get with the circle hooks. And we actually have another video that I'll put in the link in the description down below all about circle hooks. But in general, there's 3 different variations of circle hook. You're going to have your standard inline circle hook where the shank and the tip are in line with each other. You're going to have your offset shank or offset circle hook, and then you're going to have your octopus circle hook. So these are the 3 basic variations of the circle hook that we're going to use. The next hook on the list is going to be our kale hook, and this is a really popular hook that's on the market today, and it's really popular with like live bait fishing. And basically the kale hook is somewhere in between the J hook and the circle hook when it comes to design. It's kind of got some benefits of both the J hook and also has some of the downsides of the J hooks, and the same thing on the circle hook. It kind of can perform similar to a circle hook in some areas, but it also has some drawbacks there. But in general, I like to use this kale hook when I'm doing like active style fishing, where I have that hook, that rod and reel in my hand, and maybe I'm live baiting with some live mullet, going tarpon fishing or something like that, or really good for redfish or snook and stuff like that. But I like to use it more when I'm active fishing, using like bigger live bait, because there's a lot more room in this whited out gap right here for that live bait to move around on. So a really popular hook, one we really like, is the kale hook. And again, we'll have the recommendations down in the descriptions below on where you can pick up some of these hooks. But again, great hook for surf fishing is the kale hook. Next on the list is kind of a variation of the different styles of J hooks that we have. And again, I have another video that we'll put a link up here too, where we talk all about the different types of variations of J hooks and when to use one over the other. But in general, the type of J hooks that we use here on the beach are going to be basically the hook that's in this DOA Shrimp that I like to cast out every once in a while. But it's the bait holder hook, but it's got these barbs on the side, kind of a long shank, standard J hook with the the barbs on the side. And those barbs, what they do is basically keep the hook up, keep the plastic up on the hook, and don't let that bait fall down. Again, that's more of your active style fishing, where you're going to be casting and retrieving those lures in, and then having an active hook set when you're using those. Also, I really like to use different types of jig heads when I'm out here on the beach. So, this is a little bucktail jig. Sometimes I'll put a piece of shrimp on the back and cast it out early in the morning, or if I'm seeing some fish swim around in the surf. This is great for bluefish and stuff like that, but really fun to catch, again, active style fishing with this J hook, but this is the jig hook. And the other one is the pompano jig. So basically it's just another jig head with a weighted hook on the bottom. And this does a really good job of basically attracting different types of fish as you bounce it across the bottom of the sandy floor. Again, we're going to have all sorts of recommendations and everything in the description of this video, so be sure to check them out and click along there. Note, I do receive some kickback from anything that you click down below, especially if you're purchasing from Tackle Direct. So I'd appreciate if you click the links down below and make your purchases there. It'd certainly help out the channel. Next up is going to be the treble hook, and pretty much the only time I'll use treble hooks, and this is a Kastmaster spoon, but basically the only time I use treble hooks are going to be on my spoons and some jigs. For the most part, I actually like, especially with our bigger jigs like our Usuri jigs, or maybe some big 3D jerkbaits, I'll actually replace them with these Inline J hooks. They actually do a lot better as far as preserving the fish. You know, whenever you catch a fish with a treble hook out here on the beach or anywhere really, you do a lot of damage a lot of times to the fish, and sometimes it gets tangled in your line and all that. Really kind of sometimes a treble hook is a little bit of an overkill in general, but it does a pretty good job of catching like bluefish. I caught actually a lot of bluefish this morning when I was out here today with this spoon, and it does a great job. But in general, I do like to replace on my bigger jigs with this Inline J hook, where and I have a video I'll post in here to talk all about sizing and how to replace your treble hooks with these Inline J hooks. But in general, you know, the other type, you know, I certainly still use it, is the treble hook, and it's usually an attachment with a spoon. Actually, I'm pretty sure the state of Florida prohibits use of like multi-hook, like a treble hook, with any sort of live bait anyway. So I think the only way you can use it here in Florida is going to be with some sort of artificial lure, like a jig or a spoon or something like that. All right, so those are our favorite types of hooks that we like to use out here on the beach. Do me a favor though, if you have some of your own recommendations, or if you have some different ideas or about the different types of hooks you like to use out here on the beach, I'd love to hear about it. Make sure you comment below and let us know what you think. You know, also, if you like this video and you learned something, please be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to hear more from us, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you see what's coming out next. And until next time, tight lines, y'all.